The 2025 PBA LBC Championship is coming up very soon, and here's everything you need to know about the tournament and building an arsenal to help you try to make it onto TV and winning $25,000. The PBA LBC Championship, or League Bowler Certification Championship, are a tournament put on by the PBA in collaboration with Bolero, which is kind of like your city or your state tournament, or even the USBC Open Championships. This tournament is a 2-month-long tournament where the goal is, as a bowler, you go in, you bowl 6 games of singles with some optional doubles and team stuff going on, and you try to be in the cut number. The cut is a 1-to-8 cut ratio, so for every 8 bowlers, one person is going to cash. Now, the big thing with this one, $25,000 for first place, and there's a ton of different divisions. So for the open division, where there's 0 handicap, anybody can join it, $25,000 for first place. Also, if you're in the top 2, you actually make it onto TV, bowling with some pros to try to make a little bit more money. There's actually some telecasts from past years about it. Then there's a ton of other different divisions. There's men's divisions, women's divisions, handicap divisions, junior divisions, everything and anything you can imagine. For all of those other divisions, it's $5,000 for first place. Now, the entry fee for this tournament is $250. Little bit pricey for 6 games of bowling, but for $25,000, that's honestly not too terrible. There are some other interesting quirks with this tournament. For example, one, just not really a quirk, but the location is in Mount Prospect, Illinois. It's a Bolero location. It looks like some pretty beat up lane panels, nothing too crazy. So that is where the tournament is. So for every weekend from May 31st until the end of July, you're going to be able to go and bowl. It's about 2 months long, just on weekends, that you can go and bowl a shift of 6 games. The second interesting quirk is that you only have 4 bowlers per pair of lanes. So you have 2 bowlers per lane, 4 per pair of lanes. That means breakdown isn't going to be that quick, which warrants some higher scores. The more bowlers you have in a pair, the worse the scores are going to get at the end of the day. The other big quirk, you can only bring 6 bowling balls to this tournament. So in a couple of minutes, we're going to be building an arsenal. If you want to skip to it, go check out the chapters below. And then we're only going to have 6 bowling balls in that bag. So we'll cover what you can bring for just those 6 bowling balls. Now, the other weird quirk or interesting quirk about this is that PBA bowlers are actually recommended / slightly mandated to come bowl this event. At least some are. So like, for example, there's a PBA division. Last year, Graham Fa won it. He averaged 270. In the event. It was absurd. He absolutely shredded them. But that is interesting piece of it. So you can actually have PBA partners as your doubles partners, or in your team event in your optional side bracket team and doubles events. Kind of a cool thing. But let's get into the oil pattern for this competition. So this year we are bowling on a 42-foot condition with 31 mils of oil, ton of oil, and then is a 4.5-to-1 ratio. So let's go through all of those in a second. We have a 42-foot condition. This is very much middle of the road for most oil patterns. Nothing crazy in that regard. 31 mils of oil is a lot. That is a lot of oil on the lane. Now, like I said, the Mount Prospect lanes that this is competing at, they look a little beat up. So 31 mils will probably feel more like 29, but it's still a lot of oil on the lane. So you're going to want stronger bowling balls. The final piece is the 4.5-to-1 ratio. The ratio of a pattern shows how much oil is in the middle of the lane versus on the outsides. The lower the ratio, like a 1-to-1 pattern, for example, there's as much oil on all parts of the lane. The lane is completely flat for oil. You have very little miss room. The more that ratio goes up, the easier the pattern generally gets until you get to like 12 or 13-to-1, and then it just gets gross. 4.5-to-1 is hard, but not that hard. Should warrant some higher scores. Last year, the cut number was about a 225 average for 6 games. To win the event, you had to average like 240 or 250. So you have to do really, really well to be able to win the event. But overall, it's about a 225 average. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's build a 6-ball arsenal to be able to compete at this tournament. We're going to start with the very first slot. That is your strong and smooth category. I think this category still needs to be here because of how much oil there is on the lane. You don't want something too crazy strong with too much surface. So with all these bowling balls, I'd recommend about 2000 grit on them. You don't want them hooking too early and being too flat because you still need to strike. Your goal isn't just hit the pocket. Your goal is to actually have some high scores, especially right out the gate. So what I'm going to recommend here are bowling balls like the RST Hyperdrive, something like the Motive Evoke, or something like the Brunswick Mesmerize. These are not the top of the top hook potential, but they're going to be close, especially that Mesmerize. I think an Ion Max and a Jackal Onyx could be really good. I like those bowling balls better for regular patterns, but since your scores need to be a little higher, those would probably only make it about a game before they start hooking too early. So I'd recommend a little bit of a step below those super, super strong bowling balls. Next up, we are going to have our strong and sharp category. We're going to keep that guy around. This is going to be an asymmetrical pearl or asymmetrical shiny option. Now, I don't want to go with anything too shiny or too sharp either. I don't want to go with something like a Storm Identity. I honestly don't really want to go with something like a Rotogrip Attention Star. I'd want to go with something like an Equinox, a Brunswick Vaporize, an Evoke Hysteria. Strong, sharp bowling balls that are still fairly angular and are going to get further down lane, but they're not going to go completely sideways. Like, you do not want a Deviate Hater Pearl on this pattern. Keep that thing far away at home. It's just going to be too angular. That will be better for league patterns. This is not a league pattern. Have to remember that. So you don't want to bring your league bowling balls. So the balls I mentioned, I think, are going to be a little bit better than some of those skid snap pieces. Next ball up is going to be a medium and smooth bowling ball. This is going to be your benchmark. We've talked about this one many times on the channel. This, you just want whatever you usually have in this category. Phase 2, Rockstar, GB5, Venom Shock, Lethal Venom, anything in that range is going to be perfect for this pattern. This is something you might be able to start with a little closer to the track area if you want to play around like 10 at the arrows. This could be a ball that's still going to carry, still going to hit the pocket a lot, be smooth enough, and not be too angular, where it's going to leave you a lot of splits. Your goal is going to be filling every frame. You don't want to be leaving splits at this time. It's very hard to average 225 if you're leaving 2 splits a game. Then again, as per usual, the medium sharp category is still in effect. These are going to be balls to go to after your strong sharp or after your medium smooth. I assume you only need to get to this ball around games 4, 5, 6 is going to be my recommendation. I don't think you need it much earlier than that. These are going to be things like Zen 25, Scorpion Strike, Primal Rage Evolution, potentially even like an IQ AI if you want to go a little weaker, but I'd recommend the stronger ones that I mentioned previously over something like an IQ AI. Now we have 2 slots left. What are we going to put here? First of all, I want to put something that's going to hit spares. Are you somebody that uses plastic? Are you somebody that uses urethane? Put that in this next category. That is going to be a necessity. That's going to be a necessary ball because spares are going to keep you in the competition. You need to strike a lot to be able to make some money, but spares are going to be huge. So I would recommend some kind of mix, some kind of white dot, some kind of T-zone, something like that. Or else if you use urethane, bring your pitch black, bring your purple hammer for that category. Then in that 6th slot, I would recommend some kind of wild card. I don't think there's any specific category that should go here, but it really depends on you as a bowler. Are you somebody who's more rev dominant and feels like you really need a weaker pearl ball, and that's one of your favorite balls in the bag, like a Road Warrior or an Ivory Rhino or a Max Thrill Pearl? Then I would recommend bringing that. Are you a little more speed dominant and you want to fill in a slot between your strong smooth and your medium smooth? You want to bring like an XL or like a stealth mode or a primal shock? I would recommend putting that in this category. I think the 6th slot should be what you see as fit based on your arsenal, based on your bowling style, just for a regular tournament. This is a very middle of the road condition oil pattern that we're bowling on, not too long, not too short, really the Goldilocks of everything. So bring what you are comfortable with in that 6th category. And then in that 5th category, if you don't use urethane or plastic, bring another comfortable ball. Bring a comfy ball that you have a lot of confidence in. Now, I do want to mention, should you bring urethane? Is urethane going to be usable? It could be. It really comes down to, can you average 250 with urethane is the question I would ask. You don't want to completely torch the lanes. You don't want to only be averaging 200 with urethane. Like for me, it's very hard for me to average 230 with urethane. I don't have enough reps. Where someone with 500 revs in a two-hander, very different story. So if you think you can average really high with urethane, I would do it. I don't think the lanes are going to be difficult enough to need urethane per se, but if you really see it fit, then I would recommend it in one of these last 2 categories. And that is going to do it for our analysis and our arsenal builder for the PBA LBC championships. Remember, you're competing for a spot to be on TV and for a lot of money. So take it seriously, bring 6 balls that you're comfortable with and confident in. Hopefully this arsenal guide helps. You might see me down there. I'm tempted to go bowl this event sometime in the next couple of months. So if you want to see me down there, give me a weekend to come down to Chicago. I'm only about 7-ish hours away, so I can go a lot of different weekends. Let me know when you're going, and maybe I'll come by and say hi and bowl with you. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to drop a subscription if you haven't, and I will see you on the next one.